place is such an important part of your book, and I have never been to Greece, but when I read your book, I dreamt about Greece, so it was so very evocative. And I'd just love to hear a little bit more about your family, the role of Greece in your book. Are you planning any trips there? Its role and inspiration for your book.
Yeah, it's as a teacher, I have this really great job that gives me 3 months of holiday a year. But when you marry someone who only gets 2 weeks a year that you don't really want to travel without, it becomes a little bit challenging. So my husband and I, we do try to go back to Greece every year. And the first setting, Alexandria, Egypt, is very close to my family because my grandmother lived there. She came from the island of Imbros, that is now a Turkish island. And so there was work at the port of Alexandria, so that's how they ended up going there. So the first character, Dita, a lot of my readers want to know more about her, and they've been asking me about a prequel. But that would take a lot of research, and I wouldn't want to go visit Imbros, and it's a Turkish island. I do have family there now, and my mom just got back a couple of years ago from visiting. So that's the Egypt influence. And then my mother was actually born in Alexandria also. So my mother was born in Egypt also, even though the family's from Athens. And then the second part is Athens, and I was living in Athens when I wrote one of the short stories, and so one of the settings is the Athens Hilton. So I would go walk there, and I would walk through, and I would literally look to really minuscule things like how the elevator looked, and when you press the button, what color was it, and it was this beautiful opulescent, really beautiful. And so, you know, those are the descriptions that when I was writing The Mother living in 1960s Athens, I used. And then it was really important for me to set the island not to be one of the traditional islands, Mykonos, Santorini, Rhodos. I think those are the islands that everybody knows. And so it was really important for me to set it in an island that people don't really go to, which is part of the Kyklades, and it's called Kythnos. And so when the character goes back there at the beginning of the book, she's 31, and the grandmother has died 10 years before. And she walks all the same places she used to have where the grandmother's cottage was, but the grandmother's cottage got sold at her death. And again, this is all fiction, this isn't the real thing. My grandmother didn't have a house in Kythnos, but that is where I decided to set the novel. And then the real place where I did grow up is a beautiful seaside village called Kamena Vurla, which is just, you drive 2 hours up the coast from Athens. And that setting, a lot of my Kamena Vurla friends who I grew up with would say to me, Kamena Vurla's in the novel, right? And I said, no. And then of course I was inspired, and then it did take place, and I did end up doing some part in Kamena Vurla too. So all the places in the novel, I know them viscerally. They are places I have been, they are places that I've smelled and tasted and experienced. Red Greek tomatoes are a big theme in my novel. And so it's interesting because I had a friend who was planning a trip to Italy, one of my ARC readers, one of my advanced readers, and they were planning a trip, a retired couple were planning on going to Italy. They ended up changing their plans when they went to Greece. So I think the consul needs to give me a few kickback dollars there, or euros. But then she went, and she was emailing me literally with pictures every day of all the red Greek tomatoes they were trying at the different restaurants. And she said, we found one like the way you described in the book. So yeah, setting is really important, and I do feel like it's a little bit of a search for identity, it's a little bit of a historical fiction, it's a little bit of a travel guide, and most people that do read it do leave with a sense of, wow, I want to go to Greece. And I have to say, next to, beautiful Encinitas and this area, it is the place that's deepest ingrained in my heart. It's the most beautiful country, and if you haven't been, I know many of you have been, but if you haven't been, book a ticket. It's an amazing, amazing country with people too.
Thank you. Well, afterwards, I think some people may see you for your tips and for travel tips for Greece. So thank you.